What's up, boys? It's 101.3 FM. This is your host, DJ BrassO, and I'm here with.
Hey everyone, my name is Juan. Nice to meet all of you. Todos mis amigos y parceros.
De Colombia, de Canadá, como sea. We're here filming the first episode of the BrassO show, the biggest show on the Queen's radio. And we just had the greatest episode, the greatest pilot episode I think we've ever had. I'm super excited for you guys to watch it. Stay tuned for it to be dropped on CFRC 101.3 FM or YouTube and BrassO. All right, take care, you guys. Peace. There you go. This is the BrassO show. This is obviously your host, BrassO. And this is the pilot episode. And for the pilot episode, I decided to bring a special friend of mine. Why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey everyone, hola a todos. My name is Juan. Although I also go by Manuel. And yeah, I'm glad to be here. Thanks for the invite, bro.
No worries, man. No worries, man. Why don't we talk a little bit about yourself? Because, well, first and foremost, what do you study here at Queens?
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so I'm in fourth year of life sciences at Queens. And
Why life sciences?
why life sciences? Okay, well, ever since I was a kid, I've always wanted to be a doctor, and I thought, life science is probably the best pathway to that. So
Are you trying to go to med school? Is that your main goal, or are you trying to
yeah, that's honestly been my main goal for the past few years. Definitely not as strongly as now, obviously, because we mature and we really start to think what we actually want as a career in the future. We start to think about those things more clearly, and yeah, for the past year or so, I've actually had my mindset on, hey, I want to go to med school and not anything else. So yeah.
Have you thought about where what med school? I know there's a bunch of them, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know, there's ones in Toronto. I don't know if there's one. Is there any med schools in Kingston or?
Yeah, Queens has its own med
okay,
school.
Queens
It's
has their own med school.
yeah, it's I think a lot of the classes are at the MedSci building. It's yeah, a very nice building. And to answer your question, honestly, I just go wherever I'd get accepted type thing. So it's and that doesn't just mean even Canada. I'm willing to go to let's say the US or even I don't know, maybe Europe. Who knows?
Okay. And so have you thought have you even went for do you know how the application process even works? Does it matter? Does your GPA? I would imagine your GPA matters, right? And that sort of stuff. So how's your GPA doing? Solid 4.3.
It's definitely not 4.3. Actually, last year was close to that. Nah, but definitely not. It's so the application process is kind of complicated because it has different components. So yeah, GPA is I guess the most important one. But even then, even your extracurriculars are very important. And the MCAT, for those who don't know, it's called the Medical College Admission Test.
Okay.
It's a very big test. And it's 7 hours long. So yeah,
the whole test is 7 hours long.
Yeah,
you are writing down answers on a paper for 7 hours.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
It's it's multiple choice, but the questions are they're not easy questions.
Right.
They're they're questions you'd see in a typical, I don't know, physics or chemistry exam, because it's four parts, the exam. It's so there's a bio and biochemistry part. There's a chemistry physics part. With the chemistry part, that's obviously just general chemistry and even organic chemistry. And then there's a psychology and sociology part, and there's one that a lot of students find really difficult. It's called the critical analysis and reasoning section. It's called CARS for short. If you Google it or anything, you can see why a lot of people don't like it. It's basically
why don't you explain it?
Yeah, okay. Yeah, so it's basically a really bad literacy test. You all remember the literacy test, right, in grade 10?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah.
Some people probably listening to this right now probably failed it. I didn't. I actually did really good, but
yeah. Yeah, so it's the literacy test, but way worse, because you get random passages and you have to answer questions on a passage. That the passages are I don't know, I think they're they were made in the 1900s or something, and the language used is really complex. And so yeah, so it's so that section's a hit or miss, right? It's there's some people who are going to be like really good at it, other people who, you
What
know.
about you? Like, what are you like successful in, and what are you struggling right now? Like, are you really good at bio and like physics, X chemistry, or are you struggling with like chemistry and like whatever else?
I think actually I'm struggling in all of them.
Okay.
But I
I mean,
think,
I think that's like a common struggle. Yeah, I get it.
but no,
Relatable.
I actually think like the car section is actually one of my like my better ones.
Mm.
But you know, again, that is a hit or miss, and I guess I also want to say like like luck is also a big component of it because you know maybe some people on one test day they'll have like a easier section or who knows, you know. So I think luck is involved as well, but
Okay, well, I mean that's fair enough.
yeah.
And I mean, we got through what you're studying. We got through what you want to do in life. You obviously want to be the best doctor in the world. Um, where are you from? I mean, I know where you're from, but let's just tell the audience where you're from because it's very relatable for me at least.
All right, yeah, for sure. Okay, so I was born in Colombia. I was born in the capital
Woo-hoo!
city. Vamos Colombia. I was born in Bogota, the capital city, also the largest city in the country. Um, you know, my roots, my parents are from Colombia, my grandparents. However, my maternal grandmother, so my mom's mom, she was born in Colombia, but she's her dad was German, so she was German at birth. And so yeah, I guess I have German roots as well. And but I've always considered myself Colombian and Canadian. I was a naturalized citizen, so I'm also a Canadian citizen. And you know, I've lived all my life here in Canada because I came here since I was 2 years old in 2003.
But you visited Colombia like a lot of
Yeah,
times.
actually, I didn't go back to Colombia until so we left in 2003. I didn't go back until 2009.
Okay, so 6 years after.
Yeah, and then I didn't, and then after that, I didn't go back until 2013.
Okay, and why is that? Just
Uh, honestly, I think it's also because like, just like tickets were like, I don't know, just traveling's like really expensive,
yeah,
and
fair enough.
I guess like we didn't really like have a reason to go. Like honestly, we used to go to Florida a lot. Like
Okay,
instead, like we
Florida.
yeah we used to go to Florida because we my mom she had some uncles. My one of the a couple of the sisters of my grandmother who I just like talked about.
Hmm.
They live in Florida. One of her brothers lives in Orlando as well. And so we would always go to like Florida to like
Like in Orlando,
yeah Orlando or like Tampa or
Tampa.
yeah.
And okay, so I was actually in Orlando not too long ago. Where in Orlando where you been? Like, have you visited like Disney World or like Universal, or like are you just kind of chilling in like Orlando City? Like, where in Orlando did you normally go to?
So we would actually go. We would stay sometimes at like his house, like one of my uncle's house, but
Yeah.
not. I don't really know where that is really. It's been like a really long time. I think he actually sold that house and lived somewhere else.
Hmm.
Very nice house though. Um, it was definitely like in a suburb though. And but yeah, no, like when going to Orlando, we'd only go to like you know Disney World or Universal Studios or stuff like that. Yeah, but and then as we would actually spend most of our time in Tampa in a suburb as well. I don't remember where it is, but
Tampa's a coastal city, right?
yep,
Yeah, no, I think it's right next to the Caribbean, correct?
yep.
Yeah, no, that's cool. I haven't been to Tampa, but like, okay, so you've been to Cartagena, you've been to Bogota. Oh yeah, Cartagena's another city in Colombia. How many times have you been to both?
Okay, so
And like, what's your like craziest experience that you've had so far? I
yeah,
mean, I have my own, but
yeah. Okay, so Bogota. Okay. Well, I was born there. I did live there till like I was 2 years old, so I don't actually remember much. So we'll just count all that experience as one time. And then I went back in 2009 to Bogota, so that's another time. And then in around like 2019, I went to Bogota for like a couple days. So that's like that was like my third time. And then I went to Bogota last year for like 2 weeks, which is like my most like the most amount of time I've actually been to Bogota since like obviously I lived there as like a baby. Uh, and I was there for 2 weeks, so like in total like four times Bogota, and then Cartagena. So Cartagena, I've been there since 2009, so that's one time, and then from 2013 onwards, like every year, like starting from 2013, with the exception of 2020 because of COVID. um,
Yeah, COVID really sucked. I was supposed to go to Japan that year. Yeah.
yeah, no, honestly, yeah, it sucks how like everything like I feel like time was like frozen for like the past few years.
How did you deal with the pandemic? Like, do you see yourself now, like, for example, 2, 3 years ago since the pandemic started? How have you changed? Like, has this pandemic changed you?
Yeah, okay, so I definitely feel like a different person. Like, but you know, when the pandemic started, I was like 18, right? I was 18 when the pandemic started, and then now I'm 21, and you know, I think just your brain just changes like so much within like those like years. You know, your brain develops, and I feel like I feel more mature. I feel um, I feel more open minded. I feel like I can relate to people better, like with their like personal experiences. How I coped during the pandemic? Well, actually, I think a big one was obviously during lockdown. I was with my family, my brother, and my dog. I just really spent my time just like walking my dog. Not really like I didn't hang out with a lot of people. Like obviously, but well until like restrictions ended. But yeah, no, I think I think what helped me cope most with the pandemic was actually like just being with my family. I think family is like a very important thing, even in our culture, Nico. Like, you know, family is
It's a big thing, yeah.
yeah, la
No, I
familia.
think a lot of people. I mean, I'm sure a few people who are even listening to this right now would like say like the pandemic in many ways, I think, was a really big test for a lot of people in many ways, in terms of mental health, in terms of um, just overall struggle. Like I remember when the pandemic first started, March 2020. I was 17, and like just locking down with people that. I mean, the thing is that I at that time I was living with my mom and my brother, and I mean, common family struggle is like me and my mom were getting along at that time. And I remember just being in the pandemic. I'm like, oh no, I'm supposed to be locked here with my mom and my brother for like X amount of time. I mean, I don't know if you remember, but like when the pandemic first started, everyone thought it was like an extended March break.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah. And so I was just like, okay, it was like whatever, 2 weeks, it'll be fun, whatever. And at that point, I also had a job as a lifeguard, and they had me on call. I was just there playing video games all day with my friends. Got an easy $600 that week for literally doing nothing because I was on call and they already guaranteed me those shifts. So that was all fun. It was all fun and games. But as the pandemic kind of like lasted longer, longer, and longer, and that like realization came through that like, okay, this might last a lot longer than I thought. That's when I kind of realized like, oh no, like I'm gonna be here with my mom. And again, like it's always difficult. Like I think people who move out can relate. Like if you've had issues with your parents, or I mean everyone has those, like issues with their parents. When you move out, you start to realize that like you start to appreciate them a lot more. And I remember back then I just did not appreciate my mom as much as I do now. And like now that I've moved out, like I moved out when I was actually like I moved out when I was 17. I moved out when I literally September 2020. Like literally I started Queens and I just moved out. And it's during those days that you realize like damn, like your mom used to clean your clothes, or your mom used to cook your food, and so you really like if there's anything. And there's another thing I actually saw on the internet which kind of like it kind of hit me differently because it basically says that like 90% of the time that you're gonna be with your parents happens before like after like before you hit 18, because typically when you hit 18 or around that age group you start thinking about moving out.
yeah,
So I just thought to myself like not too recently, I'm like, wow, I just like lived through 90% of the time that I'm gonna be with my parents, and it's like it kind of hits you like it really does make you appreciate your parents. Like even now, like sometimes like I give my parents issues, but like I really do like think to myself like in terms of like Latin American culture, which obviously is like I'm surrounded by Latin American culture every single day. The whole family values is something that I really, really think is important, because you really don't have people that are going to be as committed to help you that aren't your family. And I don't want to speak for everyone, because obviously there's people who obviously just don't have like the right household, or just don't have a good household and stuff. But for the most part, like literally the people who are going to be there for you for the rest of your life are going to be your family. So I think when I was growing up, I didn't really appreciate them as much. And as this pandemic kind of changed me in that way, in the sense that literally, like maybe halfway, not even halfway, like even like a quarter through the pandemic, I moved out. And now I guess we're still in the pandemic, but like like every time I don't see, like we had this conversation while we were driving here. Like I haven't seen my mom in X amount of time. I saw my dad for a week. So yeah, I don't see them as much anymore. But I mean, I guess it's just part of growing up and stuff. And I mean, everyone's gonna go through it at some point. But if there's any message I'm trying to say, is that really do appreciate your parents, because if they're good parents, I know everyone has their issues and everyone's like, oh my god, I want to move out. Do appreciate them, because honestly, they're the goats and they are awesome for the most part.
Yeah, no, 100%, Nick. It's a great message to tell the viewers and everyone watching or listening to this rather. Yeah, no, I think it's just human nature. We just like we take things for granted. Like it's not just in terms of our parents. Um, for example, just the whole idea of being born without like any like major like health problems. Like we're really lucky to be born like healthy in a way, because there's a lot of people who are born with different conditions. Some people were unlucky to be born with, for example, diabetes, or just like everyone has their own experiences and struggles, and we're all like really fortunate not to not to have those same struggles, and we really don't think about that until like, well, either when it happens to us, or when we hear stories, and then we're like, damn, we really take things for granted, don't we, as humans. And yeah, this also applies to like parents, siblings. I know siblings is a big one. Growing up, I knew a lot of people who just like, they for some reason just didn't have a good relationship with their siblings. And like, I'm not saying like they're I'm not saying that like, oh, it's because their siblings were bad. They were like kids, like like
And I think that's like the same with like anything,
yeah,
right? Like siblings, even relationships. You know what I mean? Like, God, any there's no perfect like relationship with anybody. You know what I mean?
100%.
You're gonna have disagreements with everyone, no matter how perfect you think you guys are. No matter if that's your mom, your dad, your brother, sister, um, girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever. As perfect as you might seem you guys are, there's always going to be those disagreements. There's always going to be situations where like you guys are not getting along, and that's just 100% normal. And believe me, having had experiences with my own brother, with my own mom and dad, and with a few relationships I had with a few girls, um that's completely normal. And I think if there's anything in anyone who's struggling with a relationship right now, this is the big message I have with everybody. And every time somebody comes up to me about relationships or whatever, this is the first thing I've always told people. And it's not that you guys don't fight that makes this relationship good. It's the fact that you guys have good communication. Communication will always be the number one thing. Because if you guys don't have good communications, and there's not and there's an issue that you have or that your partner has, and it's not being addressed immediately, it's going to start becoming a bigger and bigger issue. It's going to have the snowball effect. And that's what happened to my parents. My parents are divorced. And I think looking back, one of their main issues was that when they had an issue, they would not talk about it. You know what I mean? So it would just be back in their head, and just they'd let it be there until it accumulates into something bigger, right? And that's the same message with siblings too. Like if I have a problem with a friend or with my brother or whatever, I address those issues like right away. Like, hey, I don't like this. You know what I mean? I don't like that. You know what I mean? Let's, we got to talk about it, because I'm definitely not vibing with this. That's the sort of things you guys have to have in a relationship, is that, and if you don't, then it's not going to work out. and that's just my honest opinion. Like, if you guys don't have that communications, sorted out by X amount of time, to be honest, the relationship's just not going to work out. It's not going to be natural, because I've seen it so many times. Your parents are together? Or
Yeah, they're
okay,
together.
they're together. Okay, so like, honestly, again, everyone has their own issues and stuff, but one of the big things I could say is that communication is super key, and just an overall advice for everyone listening. Overall advice from my own experiences: communication. If you don't have it sorted out from the start, it's not going to look good at the end.
I think also people have to realize that there's no ideal parent, sibling, partner. There's no ideal friend. There's none of that. Like there's like you can imagine like the ideal person, which is like, oh, you want your partner to act or whatever. You want them to act like however way you want them to act, but the reality is, because we're human, we're not always perfect. So we're all going to make mistakes. And I think a big part of relationships is knowing how to tolerate and live with another person's like flaws, and even your own flaws, right? Because obviously we're not perfect, and how to like tolerate that. And I think that's like a big thing, because a lot of people like they fight with someone, they're like, oh, I don't want to like forgive this person, or they just drop them because like, oh, we're fighting, we shouldn't be fighting. No, like it's okay to fight, but uh, it's okay to fight, because not everyone's perfect, and everyone's gonna have some people, like Nick said, some people are gonna do things that you're not gonna like, and proper communication is always important in that respect. Yeah, my parents. I've always had a really good relationship with my parents and my brother. Although obviously, like we've also had like some arguments and stuff plenty of times. I think that's completely normal. I've been living with my parents since
Since you were born.
yeah. No, honestly, like I went to high school here. I went to elementary school here in Kingston. I also went to high school here. I went to St. Martha's Catholic school. Yeah, Catholic school. That was the elementary school, and then I went to my high school was Regiopolis Notre Dame Catholic High School. It was the first English speaking Catholic high school in Canada. Yeah, that's we some
In
of
other words, he's a townie.
one of our alumni was the one guy who played as Optimus Prime. Yeah.
Wait. From like the movie?
Nah, I think it was like a TV show.
Oh, that's so cool. Like
Yeah.
the cartoon one.
Yeah.
Oh wow, I didn't know he was Canadian. That's so cool.
Yeah. I forget his name, but I
No,
know.
me neither. I don't know.
Yeah,
but
I
like,
know. I know. He was definitely like an alumni there, and like literally every time someone would bring it up, they're like, "Oh yeah, Optimus Prime went to our high school."
That's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick. And okay, so I mean, if you've been born and raised in Kingston, you know Kingston like the backside of your hand.
Yeah. Like yeah, no, I definitely know like I like to say I'm like familiar with Kingston. I actually don't know like I'm not really good with street names. So like, if you tell me a street name, I won't really know it. I mean, honestly, obviously I know a couple like like Aberdeen Street or like Berry Street,
Yeah.
stuff like that, right? Like Princess. Uh, but like the thing is like even like I just don't like when it comes to directions. I don't actually like focus on the street names or like even like room numbers. Like
You just turn right or left. That's
yeah,
it.
I just turn right or left. I just remember like the scenery type thing, and
Okay.
that's yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. All right. Well, Juan, let's get into relationships. Have you had a girlfriend?
Have I had a girlfriend? So I've never actually been in an exclusive relationship with anyone.
Why is
Uh,
that?
Well, there's been a few times, but I have the philosophy that if you're in a relationship with someone, it's because you want to have a serious relationship with them, and maybe
Marry them.
well, yeah, like eventually, and many times I've been like unsure, and so instead of like carrying on a relationship, which I know I'm not gonna be like that happy in, it's not fair for the other person. I decide, because it's not gonna be fair for the other person, if I don't like see them the same way, and I want something serious out of it, then and I don't see myself compatible with that specific person. I've been like, I think it's better to just drop everything.
Whatever happened. So I know, like, I know, but the viewers don't. Whatever happened to that Ecuadorian, right?
Oh yeah, her.
Ecuadorian chick, Ecuadorian girl that 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 was that you met in Colombia. How's she doing? Or what has happened?
Me and her still talk.
Nice.
She's a great person. I care about her a lot. She's very important to me.
Talking about people actually being there for you, Juan.
Yeah.
I want to bring this back because I also have my own crazy experiences in Colombia. What experiences have you had in Colombia that you would say is like a little bit like different, I guess, from Canadian standards?
Yeah. Actually, yeah, that was what I was gonna say. Before. Yeah. No, I think just how our culture is different here in North America compared
Also the world.
to like, yeah, even like South America, like Latin America. I think it's like very different because I know you said you were scared of approaching people, Nick, and Latin American culture, that's like
Every other day in the office.
yeah, like you see a person, doesn't have to be a person who who you're physically attracted to. It could be like you see someone who you want to be friends with, you want to make a friend, you just strike a conversation with them. Here in like North America, it's kind of harder, because people are more, the culture is more reserved, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But and it's the same thing in like Europe and places like Italy and like France, uh, where it's like people are not, they're more open in that regard. Like for example, obviously like Italians and like French and like even like a lot of people in like Latin America, they use kisses to greet people. That's not really common here in let's say Canada or the United States or even like England. That's, yeah, not
Like the
common.
differences between Anglo culture and like Latin culture is basically what you're
Exactly.
saying. I'll be honest with you. I think Italy. I was in Italy this year in the summer, actually in August. I was in Italy, France, and Spain. So like literally the Latin combo outside of Portugal and Romania, I guess. But I will say that Spanish people are probably the most approachable. I think I was born in Spain, and I was walking around Madrid in Madrid, and I kid you not, I think I made a friend, and I think I made a friend group when we actually went out together. Literally 30 minutes in Madrid. 30 minutes in Madrid, and I got a friend group. And it's like Spanish people are like those type of people who are like, oh, like one of them meets you, and they're like, oh, let me show you my friends. And then like their friends are all chilling wherever, and he's like, yo, guys, I just met this guy. Especially if you're a tourist, you know what I mean? Like, technically, I'm not a tourist, 'cause I'm Spanish, but like, it's like, oh, yo, I met this guy who was born in Spain, but like Colombian, but like raised in Canada. And they're like, oh, wow, no way. And so you just have automatically like 20 things to talk about. I felt like Spanish people, and it could be because I speak Spanish. And so there was a lot of, I mean, I speak French too, to be honest, but like, I just feel like Spanish people are like a really chill, really cool. They're really awesome to vibe out with. I actually really love Spain. Um, French people are definitely a bit more business professional, but they're also still really nice for the most part. Like I met some really nice French people who definitely helped me out. They're really cool people. Italians, I feel were the most, and maybe this is a controversial opinion, but I feel like Italians were the most reserved in the sense that like they talk to you, yes, but they don't necessarily invite you into their group. You know what I mean? Like they're like Spanish people and to an extent French people, they're like very welcoming in the sense that like yeah, like you're cool, like let me introduce you to my friends and such. Like you can easily be a part of a friend group in Spain and France to some extent just by hanging out with people. But I feel like Italians, and again, this is just kind of like from my own personal experiences, so I don't really know this for a fact. But I felt like in my experience, Italians are approachable, but they're also keep to themselves or they keep to their own group, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I've never been to Europe, so I can't say, but
Highly recommend.
yeah, I do want to go one day. Obviously, I want to go one day.
You want to get the German citizenship, right? Is that what you're?
Yeah, that's something that we've been looking into because of obviously My mom, her mom's German, so obviously like that's something she's been looking for, she's been looking into, and yeah, I definitely love to go to Europe one day. I'd love to go to many places. I'd love to travel all of Latin America. I'd like to go all through Europe. Honestly, if it were me, I watch a lot of YouTube. I watch this YouTuber. He's well, I mean, I watch many YouTubers that have to do with traveling, but one of my favorite ones, his name's Drew Binsky. Um, he he's one of the few people who's traveled to every single country in the world. Um, and he really shows a different perspective of countries that the media doesn't really show.
Like,
Like here, for example, many places in Africa, uh, a lot of countries, even countries in Latin America, they show that the media may show that they're dangerous, and this may cause people to be scared of traveling to these places. But in reality, you see the videos he portrays, and you see like something completely different. You see people who are happy. Obviously, there's still poverty in many of these countries. You know, in Asia and Africa and Latin and Central and South America. Obviously, there's a lot of poverty, and like it's evident in the videos, but the people seem happy and the people are friendly, and it really just sheds like it really makes you wonder, does money buy happiness? Because you see the videos and you ask yourself, you see these people who don't live in great conditions compared to people in first world countries, like ourselves, and yet they smile and seem happier compared to a lot of people in first world countries. So you really ask yourself, does money actually buy happiness?
well, the thing is, and this is what I have always preached. I just want to say two things real quick. First and foremost, like for example, I've been to quote unquote dangerous countries. I mean, Mexico, Colombia is considered dangerous. Brazil. That being said, they are countries in which you have to take caution. That is
100%.
true. That is
100%.
100% true. But I think I think here's the thing. There are people there that are going to be out to get you, and you will have to be careful. That being said, 95, if not 99% of the population of all these countries will be friendly to you. You know what I mean? And that is true. That being said, there's always that 1% of people who ruin it. You know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like when people say like, oh, for example, like Mexico is dangerous, etc., etc. Yes, Mexico is a dangerous country, for sure. 100%, I would agree with you. But that being said, as long as you know what I mean, as long as you know what you're doing, as long as you know, as long as you meet the right people, which are 99% of the people in Mexico, you're gonna do fine. You're gonna be okay. Yeah, I mean, people are typically like I preach this. It doesn't really matter where you are in the world. People are gonna laugh. People are gonna fall in love. People are gonna cry. People are gonna be sad. These emotions are regular everywhere, no matter where you are in the world. No matter where you are in this planet, people are just going to always be people. And I feel like, especially like modern day politics has made it seem that, like, for some reason, I'll give you an example. My uncle actually went to Russia not too long ago. He was actually in Russia not like 5 days ago. And it was really cool because he kind of had this perspective where it's like, look, yeah, like the politics and people like in the situation aside, Russian people are some of the most kind, welcoming people out there. Like there is 99% of the people in Russia are actually really welcoming. It's unfortunate that with the situation going on with Ukraine, but for the most part, there's genuine good people out there. And that goes with no matter where you are in the world. And I feel like that's just something that I think people don't really like. We paint enemies to everybody. Like we paint our Russians as enemies, or we paint Syrians or whatever as enemies, right?
That's the problem of like equating governments to
To the people.
yeah, many of these authoritarian governments they actually evoke fear, and most of the people are actually like not, they don't agree with
What's going on?
yeah, but they can't say anything because of like fear of basically persecution or any of that sort of things. but yeah, no. Yeah, I think it's always nice to and very important to meet people of different countries and cultures. It's
It's also just good for internet for experience. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
yeah, of course. And like I feel like as we I feel like if someone asks me what's the point of life, I feel like the point of life is to basically learn learn and basically try to understand humans better. And I think the only way you can understand humans better is if we meet people of different cultures and like we hear about their experiences and basically like learn what makes them them. and and I think that's like really important. Like I think I think we as humans should it's part of our duty to like basically learn about other people and how their their cultures are relevant to us and like their experiences, how are they relevant to us. And I think we can all learn from each other in like in different ways. You know, some countries obviously, maybe in terms of obviously like safety, but even like first world countries can learn from third world countries in terms of I don't know, maybe happiness. Like there's everything. Every one person in the world has something to offer that one can learn from.
That's actually what I actually was going to mention, that happiness, right? Because you mentioned that. Do people in developing countries feel happier than people in first world countries? It's something I had thought about, and the thing is that I feel like it's less to do with money, but how much freedom you actually have. You know what I mean? I feel like in North American culture is very individualistic. It's very, me, myself, and I, and I'm gonna make the money I need to make to supply my own needs and supply my own desires, which for most people is to get a family or raise a family or like whatever, right? Which is what people look for in terms of happiness, right? But the issue is that yeah, there is money going around in this place, but there's not enough money for everyone to just kind of just be free to do whatever they want, because that doesn't make sense, right? We all have, like, most people in North American culture have a 9 to 5 job, which is, again, I don't want to criticize that. Like I'm not like, edgy like that, but like, you know what I mean? People have 9 to 5 jobs. People, have a strict schedule for every single day, and people don't feel free, right? And that's the issue. Now, if you go to the developing world, where money is less of an issue because they don't have money, but they do have more time to be with their family or to do things they like. That being said, there's obviously the issues of poverty, which is a big contribution to just not being happy in terms of health, education, reasonable living conditions. I was in Venezuela this year, and Venezuela was actually very interesting because I was actually living in a community in Venezuela, and something that kind of like shocked me, I guess, in a way, is that the strength of a community goes a very long way uh, in how you live your life. So the place I was living in Venezuela was it was a big community of people. For people who don't know it, it was basically like a slumish area, but people got along and everyone knew each other. And I got the opportunity to see or to be invited to their communals and to see how their living conditions are like. I got to go to like a community run school. I got to see how that worked, a community run healthcare clinic ish. And what kind of surprised me is that like the strength of the community allowed everyone to have some time to do what they want to do. Like if, for example, the teacher just couldn't teach that day for whatever reason, wanted the day off to spend time with her husband or with her kids, somebody would be there that more than happy to replace her. You know what I mean? And that's the thing. It's less to do with money. Money doesn't necessarily buy your happiness. It's freedom that does. And the thing is that money is in many ways correlated with freedom, because if you have money, typically you have time to go out and travel or do things that you want to do and whatever. So that's the issue, and that's the thing, is that in North America, people have money but they don't have freedom, because most of that money is spent themselves, on individual capitalistic things like the newest iPhone, the newest watch, the newest whatever. And so they don't actually have that time to just go out and enjoy things that they want to enjoy, presuming that they don't enjoy their job, because most people unfortunately don't really enjoy their job. And in developing countries, it's money is not even like a contribution, because most of these people don't really have money, right? They're more grateful of the simplistic things. If they have food on the table, electricity, a place to sleep.
It's even like first world countries, they cost of living is really expensive. Like,
I mean, I think we all could agree with
Yeah.
that. We could all agree with that struggle. Everyone see, I literally, like, when I was driving today, I saw the gas at $1.69 a liter. I'm like, oh, that's like $6-7 a gallon. I'm like, no way. That is messed up.
like here, it's unfortunate, but I'm pretty sure it's really hard to even live with like minimum wage right now. In a nice, comfortable like area. It's
Well, I mean, like, if you do the math, like, what, minimum wage right now is $15.50, I think.
yeah, like around that.
What do people average work? Like 40 hours a week?
Yeah.
So, like, if you're making $15.50 minimum wage, working 40 hours a week, that's $6.20. $6.20 divided by 4 is $24.80, right? And then you have to consider the fact that some of that's getting taken away from tax.
Tax.
Um,
Definitely like rent. Whatever. How much is rent? Like,
So let's just say I don't necessarily know how much you're taking out of tax, but just to say you keep 200, like 2,200, right? With 2,200, like, rent, you can't even rent, like, reasonably. You can't even rent an apartment with 2,220,
no, not at all.
because an apartment is gonna go what, 15, 16, 1,700.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you have $500 for food, for other expenses, like if you have a car or something. So you're running, like, yeah, dude, like, you're not really, you have to live in a room. You
Yeah.
can't even have your own apartment with minimum wage.
Yeah.
And that's in Kingston. Like, in Toronto,
That's even like worse.
yeah,
It's
in
like,
Toronto, I even look at an article where it's like there's people like in studying in Toronto universities that are Toronto University or UFT, University of Toronto, that or it's probably TMU as well, that are literally just living in homeless shelters. And that's crazy, like, again, like, yeah, this is like, obviously a first world country, and this is all this, and obviously there's so much things you could do here. But the fact that we have people in Canada, especially students in Canada, that are, like, the fact that we have the very own fact, like, let me just word this correctly. The very own fact that we have people in Canada that are living in homeless shelters, that are studying in a university like UFT, which is one of the best universities in Canada, is mind-blowing. How is this happening? How is it that rent is so high and the minimum wage is so low that there's people living, literal students that are living in homeless shelters? That's insane. And I really do think about this sometimes. Obviously, there's talk about recession, and I could go all day about this. I really can. So I mean, but I'm going to save that for another day. But the fact that, like, there's a genuine issue of cost of living in Canada makes me sometimes think, like, is Canada really, like, honestly, look, having been around the world, like, I know a lot of places. I'm going to Africa this next year and next summer. But I know Latin America pretty well. I know Colombia, Brazil, Venezuela, Mexico, DR. I know Argentina. I know the U.S. decently well. I know New York. I know the New York State pretty well. I know Florida State pretty well. I know Houston. I know Los Angeles. I know Europe decently. Like, I know at least, Latin Europe, Spain decently. I know France pretty well. Toulouse, Paris, Lyon. Quelle autre chose? Quelle autre ville? Oh, Marseille. I know Italy decently. I'm pretty grateful to be in Canada. I think Canada has a lot of benefits, a lot of great things happening in Canada, but it is expensive, and the fact that we have people that are really, really struggling makes me think, like, is it worth it to look for other places around the world? Is it worth it to try your shot in the States? I don't know. I guess that's something I'm gonna have to think about it. I still have some time, so we'll have to see. But I definitely have thought about it, because cost of living here is really getting really expensive, and it's only getting worse. So
yeah, I know 100%. Yeah, it's really unfortunate. Like I know, yeah, just living in Canada right now is it's very difficult, and I don't want to say just Canada in general. Like even
In the world in
yeah,
general, to be
like
honest,
the
yeah,
world in
it's not
general.
easy right now anywhere.
Yeah, I know a lot of people in America are struggling as well. Even in Europe, with there's like it's like what they have like no water or something.
Well, I mean, oh, jeez, this is
Yeah, like
gonna take a
like
while if I need to talk about it.
yeah,
But long story short, for anybody who doesn't know and isn't informed, essentially, there's an energy crisis in
yeah,
Europe, because of the Russian Nord Stream pipe. Which, for people who don't know, Russia for the longest time was supplying basically all the energy in Europe, and because of the whole Russian situation with Ukraine, the illegal invasion of Ukraine, um, Russia and Europe basically cut ties, and that means that the energy that Russia was giving out to Europe is no more. So Europe is in a situation where they're not getting much energy, and they're about to hit winter. And winter, you need a lot of energy because you need to heat homes, you need to do this, you need to do that. So there's a really big issue right now in Europe, that like how are we going to heat people's homes? Like, you know what I mean? I actually saw that it's actually right now technically illegal to have your home heated for at this X amount of time. I forget what it is. I don't know what country. Somebody probably knows, but they're really trying to save energy right now in Europe. It's a really
yeah,
big struggle right now. So you're right. It's not easy anywhere right now, and it's unfortunate. You know, there's no safe haven for anybody right now. But again, if there's anything I learned from Venezuela is this: like, if you have your community with you and your community is strong, you'll make through it. No matter how hard time gets.
yeah,
So
100%. I think in terms of sorry, we might have to cut that because I thought like you were like raising your finger. Yeah.
no
Uh,
worries.
yeah, no. Yeah, I know. In terms of culture, I grew up in Canada, so I obviously resonate with Canadian culture. I also resonate with Colombian and Latin American culture because I grew up in a Colombian household. I speak Spanish at home, and but yeah, no, I don't know about you, Nick, but it's always interesting to like it feels that when I interact with people from Canada, it's like I feel like a different person. But when I interact with my parents, I feel like with a different person as well. And like when I interact with you and like my other Latin American friends, I just feel I'm closer to how I act with my parents
Con
and
la
like
familia, sí.
yeah, and like all my cousins and stuff like that. Um, so I think it's interesting how our brain like just like it it picks up on that and and I don't know I find that really interesting. Growing up, I know bullying's a big issue and for many people growing up. If there's something I regret a lot of times in my life was not standing up for people because of fear of me getting bullied as well.
Mm.
Um, and I think that's like I don't know. I don't know what the experience is in Latin America. Maybe you know better, but I know obviously there's like a lot of bullying there as well.
There is, yeah.
But I know here that here I don't think it's as much physical. I think in Latin America it's pretty physical, but like here also it's like more
Words.
yeah more verbal. So definitely I feel like I should have like stood up for people more, and that's something I don't know what you think.
I think bullying is a big issue anywhere. Everywhere that you go, that you come across. And I think bullying really has like when you come down to it, it comes down to that bullying is really just a consequence of people not being raised in the right household. Because typically bullies are themselves victims of something else.
100%.
And look, like I've always been pretty chill with everybody. That's always been kind of my thing. And I mean, people who've known me in middle school, elementary school, high school, people would always know me as the person who's just kind of always been like around, chill, like knows everyone, right? And I've always kind of maintained that position. I've been at least fortunate in the fact that I've never been bullied, never have been the bullier as well. Just straight up, just kind of just chill. I'm kind of chill like that. Um, but no, it's definitely an issue for sure. And I know that I definitely know people who have been victims of bullying. And I know there's definitely people out there that are fighting to make things right. And again, it's just communication. If you are getting bullied, make sure somebody knows, somebody that's older knows, or somebody around you that knows that obviously cares about you, because it's a big issue, and obviously it's not nice, it's not fun, and obviously like words can hurt just as much as punches or anything else. So
Yeah.
yeah, there's a genuine issue out there. I think it's less in Canada now. In my opinion, I might be wrong. I might also just be ignorant about that. But I do know that bullying is obviously an issue everywhere, no matter where you are in the world. People just are just sometimes mean to people, and especially when you're younger. And if there's anything I have to say is that you just kind of have to pick yourself up, not communicate with these people because they obviously don't care about you. If there's a nobody to you, just report them.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
if they don't care about you, you don't care about them. Like
Exactly.
they don't matter to you.
They-
That's like that's one of the most important things. That here, I guarantee you, there's plenty of people who don't like me, and obviously they're not gonna tell me they don't like me. Like
Yeah,
they're gonna keep it to themselves.
yeah,
And I feel like that's a lot. Like that's a big thing. Like people just act fake. And if you ever hear like someone gossiping about you, like you're like there's gonna be someone who's not like it's bound to happen that someone's not gonna like you, and you won't know about it yet. If you do find out like whatever reason, like don't beat yourself up. Like it's not
like literally. I'll be honest with you. There's this guy who I would have always considered my friend, right? Who's super negative person. I cut him off in my life. It's unfortunate because honestly, he's a good guy. He just has his own issues. If they're holding you back, why associate yourself with them? Cut them off. I cut him off last year, basically, right? I've had the best year of my life, quite literally. I've had the best year of my life since then. And honestly, like that's the thing. Like if there's negative people in your life, and I know this sounds cliche, but like cutting them off is the best thing you can do. And it does take some initiative, it does take some courage, but cutting them off is the best thing you can do. You can honestly like live your life so much better if you do that. And I mean, like I said, like it's just tiring. It's not necessary. It holds you back. It's not good for anybody. So I mean, yeah, I 100 recommend doing that. If you guys are dealing with negative stuff in your life, just cut it off. It's not necessary. It's not needed. And also, there's a friend. She gave me this advice in the summertime. I know she'd be probably listening to this. Maybe, who knows? Think about how, because when you're in a negative environment, negative self talk becomes a really big issue. It is a big issue for myself. Think about how you talk to yourself, right? If you do have these issues, and think to yourself, would you ever talk to yourself the way that you talk? Like, would you talk to your friends the same way that you talk to yourself? For people who are dealing with negative self talk, really think about that for a sec, because I had to think about that. I'm like, damn, like I really am just really mean to myself sometimes. You know what I mean? And so, like literally, that is one of the best things that you can do to yourself, is just really like remove negative environments. One, the fastest way you can, the most easiest way you can, just remove them. Um, just start living life again, dude. Like it really isn't worth it to just be in an environment where you're just not being treated right. And I really do believe now that everyone should be treated right. And I'm a type of person that, like, as long as you're not hurting anybody, as long as you're not hurting me, I don't really care. You know what I mean? I'm cool with you. I'm chilling with you. I'll respect you because you're a cool person as long as you're not hurting anybody. You know what I mean? Including yourself. So, look, I'm going to have to cut this short. This has been an hour.
yeah.
Don't believe me.
Yeah.
But again, Juan, nice seeing you again. It's always cool seeing un parcero aquí en Canadá, aquí in Queens.
Claro que sí.
But yeah, it's always a pleasure. Thank you for being my first guest.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, no worries. And for everyone listening, this is CFRC 101.3 FM. This is the BrassO Show. This is your host, DJ BrassO. All right, you guys take care.
Adios.